Hello and welcome to another comedian's interview for my blog Arichcomiclife. My name is Richard Gill and my blog describes my experiences of watching over 800 comedians and counting over the last 46 years. My guest today is the wonderful comedian Miss Kelly Convey. Yes! Hello! How are you? Lovely to see you.
Darling, it's so lovely to see you too.
How are you?
Usually we're in, it's usually always been comedy, isn't it?
Well,
I usually see you.
Yeah, there or a comedy club, yeah.
And now I'm finally in your home.
You can see my posh bookcase with all my comedy books behind me.
It's very impressive. As you can see, my array is
lovely.
Not quite the same.
Anyway, thank you so much for doing this. We're gonna have a chat about your comedy career, and it's gonna last about 45 minutes to an hour. And I'd like to go way back to the start and ask you, how did you become a comedian?
Oh wow, like a lifetime ago now. I'd been writing. I'd been doing some professional writing,
right.
And I'd my friends were saying, "Oh, this is really quite funny." And my friend had always been on at me to do stand-up, but when I started doing the writing and the blogs and stuff, she was like, "You really need to try this on stage." I said, "Oh, I don't know. And it always just seemed like, I'm sure everyone says, it's just like, I'd love to, but it never in a million years am I going to do stand-up. And then we got drunk. And of course, which usually are the start of all of my stories. I applied to the Cavendish Arms in Stockwell.
Know it well, yes.
Comedy Virgins, try out for the very first time. And I applied thinking, oh, they'll never reply to me. They just won't get back to me. And then lovely Cheryl from Cavendish, she replied and said, "You're on in 2 weeks."
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God. I spent the next 2 weeks writing out my best Tinder material. It was a very, I shudder to think what I said on that stage.
I bet it was wonderful.
Do you know what, Rich? I can remember some of it. It was, I was single at the time, and all of my material was based around that. Obviously, so desperate, and I was almost using my gigs as a sort of, a speed dating event. And I had this gig. It was something about me going to barbecues, all my friends being in relationships, but the only thing I had in common was with the cheese singles. I was a bit single, individually wrapped, and just trying to get a bit of meat or something. It was terrible.
I love it.
Maybe I should bring that bit back.
Yeah.
But I remember it so clearly. I was on my way to the gig, and I've never had this before or after in my life. I was so nervous. My palms were sweating. I sound like Eminem. But my palms were sweating so much that it was actually dripping down my arms.
Wow.
I was so, because I'd never, even at school or anything, been on the stage. I'd never done anything like that. And then it was this weird moment. I went up there and I was really scared. But as soon as I went up there, I went, oh my God, this is it. This is, fantastic. I actually feel really, everyone's looking at me and I love it. And it just felt right. And then I was addicted from that point on.
So what year was this?
That was March 2016.
I like the month as well. That's
yeah, lovely. I remember it.
Yeah. Well, I the first thing I ever did at school, I played Dopey the Dwarf, and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And because I'm tall, I had to kneel down, so I had giant shoes on, and my knees were in agony. This was at primary school. I did a bit of amateur dramatics when I worked in the civil service. I played Oscar in The Odd Couple, the Neil Simon comedy, and that was hysterical. And then I wrote my own play, and then I thought, right, I'm gonna give, because I've had a go at stand-up, and this is a reason why I wrote the blog, because I look at the blog as an enthuse to all the heroes that can get up there and do it, and that's why I'm so passionate about it. I had a go. It was a gong show. I've told I've told this to many a comedian. It was a gong show for old folk at the Edinburgh Festival, and the promoter said to me, "Go on a Monday afternoon, rainy Monday afternoon, and you'll be brilliant." So I walked out. There was 3 people in the crowd. And I walked out, and the first line was, "People think I look like Eddie the Eagle Edwards, but I can't see the resemblance myself, because I am his double." And I thought, that's going to get a killer of a laugh. And some old bloke in the back just went, "Fuck off," and gonged me off. So the
to be fair, that sounds like a lot of my Edinburgh gigs as well, mate, so don't worry.
So the promoter then said, "Have another go," did exactly the same thing, and I said, "I'm much suited for the audience. I've got the laugh. I'll support them forevermore." That's me, anyway.
I love that you gave it a go.
Yeah. What was your first ever gig like, and where was it? What was it like?
So it was at the Cavendish Arms. I was on. So basically, the setup. I'm sure you've been down there, but the setup for the night is there's about 157 people on the bill, and they pack them in, and everyone has 5 minutes to sort of, and it's called Comedy Virgins because it's either people that are very new or this is literally their first time.
Yeah.
So I was on, like, there must have been about 12, 13 people before me. By that point, you're like, oh my God, I think I'd forgotten that I was even going on, It just I was thinking, bloody, it was like 11:30, and I'm sitting there. And then they called me up, and it was almost like an out-of-body experience. I kind of went, "Oh, go on then," and went up there. And that first laugh,
amazing.
Like it was just like, wow. And then as soon as the laugh came, it just propelled me to just really enjoy it. And then I forgot about everything else. And it's a sort of competition. The audience choose their favourite act of the night, and I came second. So I felt like it went well, even with that. The cheese slice material. I seemed to do really well. So I went back there, I think the following month, and. But I think that as first gigs go, it actually went quite well.
Brilliant.
Considering based on your first gig, it went bloody well.
Well, that's my last gig.
I don't blame you.
I know Brendan O'Donoghue very well, the compere, and he was he did the Comedy Virgins for years. And he's been on this interview, and the support for all the new comedians is phenomenal. And I've been there many a time. I know a lot of new comedians, and I'm the one who's the friend who goes along and has to laugh in all the right places.
Yeah. But you've got a brilliant laugh. So.
You're very kind. But watching them develop is just amazing. From nothing up to really, really big.
Yeah. Brendan was the host of my first gig.
Right. Oh, brilliant. That's lovely. So what do you like to talk about on stage?
Myself.
Correct answer.
Yeah, it's totally evolved over time. It's always about my life and things that I am experiencing or have experienced.
Yeah.
And, but it's changed so much. So when I first started doing comedy, God, it must have been such a nightmare for people to watch me. I was like going up there, and because I was single as well, I used to get really dolled up to go on stage and be like, oh, I'm so single, you know. And it was all about Tinder and trying to find love, and oh, woe betide me, I can't find a man. Then I met my partner Bruce, and then it was all about how loved up I was, and then my material was all about basically when will he ask me to marry him, which was material that I especially did when he came to the gigs, just so like he'd be the back.
Sort of like give him a hint.
Yeah, there was quite a few hints across the period of time. Yeah. And then we got engaged, and then getting our house. So it really has been an evolution of my life, really. And I feel like that's something that as I'm getting better, I feel like I want to kind of not necessarily come away from that, but just talk about broader issues. Yeah. But I feel like I'm still very new, as a novice. I feel like the main thing that I can draw upon are myself, because I can laugh at myself without reprieve from anything else. It's a fairly easy subject.
Yes, yeah. But it's all experience. The more you do, the not necessarily better, but the more experienced you get. It's because you're bound to have difficult nights and good nights, but it is all experience to keep going, and it's wonderful to see.
Yeah, it's definitely like as it's sort of progressed, and the bigger gigs that I've done, and and the bad gigs, the ones that have gone wrong are the ones I've learnt the most from. No one is just instantly good at stand-up. Like you can have a talent for it, but no one's just like walking in and second, they walk in, they're on this TV. Yeah. It's something you have to learn, because there's so many little things, and just, if I hadn't have done that specific gig, I wouldn't have that specific joke.
Exactly.
And things like that, and without gigging, that muscle just doesn't get used.
Yeah. Did you find it at all difficult to break through into comedy?
I don't think I did, in terms of like getting signed in that. I think I was very, very lucky, and I'd be a fool not to sort of, acknowledge that. I was sort of within 6 months of starting, I was doing the big comedy finals up in Edinburgh and things like that. Yeah. And then from that, you have the opportunity for agents to see you. And within a year from starting in the March 2016, I was signed to my agent in 2017.
That's amazing.
Which I think is amazing, and I'm so grateful. I can't even put it into words how grateful I am. I do feel like that I was, it was timing. They were looking for more women. Like, there are factors to do with that. I do believe, but I think I was very fortunate, because I know people work for years and years, and I'm sure that they were looking at me at the time like, congratulations. Really happy for you.
No, it is the meteoric rise you've had has been brilliant. In 2016, you were a competition finalist for So You Think You're Funny, and a semi-finalist for Funny Women and the Leicester Square New Comedian of the Year.
Yeah.
That is again amazing. Describe those experiences. What do you think of entering competitions? Do you feel as though you had to do it to progress, or how did you? Yeah,
I think that looking back, like they are the reason why I got agents to see me. Right. When you're doing unpaid open mic gigs and stuff, agents don't tend to come to those. Right. And so I feel like they were the platform for me to be seen on a different level, on a more professional level. It was definitely very early in my career. I don't regret doing them that early, but I don't know if a bit more experience doing them a bit later, maybe a year in, you know,
Right.
I might have like maybe won them, or, you know, I didn't ever sort of win. But do you know what? I just look at those competitions as it really wasn't about winning. It was just about getting seen.
Right.
From a professional business perspective.
Yeah.
It's a platform that anytime there's a platform presented to you, you have to take them. So I'm ever grateful for those competitions, because, you know, especially like the So You Think You're Funny, that put me in Edinburgh 6 months into my, you know, 6 months into doing open mics, just bam, straight into Edinburgh. And it was like, whoa. And I didn't really understand the world of comedy at that time. I was just doing it. I loved it. I wasn't working at the time. And, you know, I was all in. I was doing 7 gigs a week. And the only alternative than doing the gigs was doing the competitions.
Yeah.
So I just, you know, applied to them, and definitely changed the game for me, for sure.
I went on a half-day writing course for Amused Moose because they said, "Oh, you're right. We see you're writing a blog. This may help this course." So I went along, and I was with a load of reviewers, and they went round all the people, and they came to me and they said, "We forget about you. What do you?" I said, "Well, I'm not a reviewer. I'm not a diarist. I'm not a reporter. I'm not a critique. I'm a member of the audience, and I have a great time when I go to the comedy, and I just go and enjoy it." And that's why I'm saying the blog's an enthuse, because it is a celebration of such a positive art form. You know, it must be wonderful to be part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you definitely have the best time out of everyone, including the comedian.
I think I'm just too loud.
It's just so lovely when you know, you know, and for it's just such a. It's like a drug. It's like a buzz that you get from. And I'm not going to even go like, oh, from making people happy, because there is a sort of, you know, there's a thing within you that it's craving that. It's like, love me, just love me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, in the very same instance as you wanting people to love you, the reason why you do it is to make them happy. So I've always, and I think that's why my friends have always said to me, Stuart, is that I don't care what I'm doing. If I'm making someone laugh, I love it. You know, my friends' mums used to hate it when I used to come stay.
Yeah.
Because it'd be 3-4 in the morning and I'm keeping them up because all they can hear is us giggling. And it's a great feeling to make people laugh.
Yeah.
It's why I got into trouble at school, and you know, I was the naughty girl at school because it made the class laugh. You know,
that's brilliant.
I mean, it didn't get me very good GCSEs, but it made everyone laugh.
Yeah, that is brilliant. Who have been your mentors that have helped you on your comic journey? Have you had any, or who supports you?
I know that certain people have like an actual mentor.
Right.
I haven't really got a mentor as a specific person.
Right.
But I've worked with some of the most amazing comedians that I've just taken. I don't think they've realised how much they've influenced me and how much I've learned from just watching them. Russell Kane is the most insane, clever, genius comedian. Like, I would hate to be inside his brain because he is insane.
He is extraordinary because he's one of those comedians that can take a word and just fly with it.
Oh yeah,
I mean, extraordinary.
And you know, forgetting his skills on the stage, it's his scientific understanding of the whole game is incredible to me. So I started gigging with Russell really early because we have the same agent and he put us together. And I say this story all the time, but I just always remember being completely like, oh, He was like, I got to the gig and I was just excited. I was like, oh my God, I'm gigging with Russell Kane. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And then I got there and he was like, have you seen The Room? Terrible Room. And I was like, what? I don't know what you mean. He's like, it's really long. I was like, okay. Like, does that mean that more people can get in? I don't know. And he's like, no, the thing is, the stage is really high, the room is really long, the ceilings are really high. Wow. So you're going to lose a lot of the laughter into the ceiling. And when you want to talk to someone, you've got to come, because the stage is really high, you've got to get down low, because otherwise it's intimidating. All this stuff.
And he knew it all.
Like, oh my God, you have to consider that as well. I'm just trying to remember my material. And so he's taught me a lot about stagecraft and things like that. Like Alan Carr is the best comedian in the world, and I've gigged with him, I've supported him on tour, and like watching him is, I feel like we have a very, or I would love to think we have a very similar way of doing stand-up and a presence. And I would love to be able to sort of emulate him in a tenth of his stage presence. So I think that there's, and I could name so many more without just sounding like I'm name dropping, because there's other people that, are on my level, or even open micers. If you just watch people, you will go, oh, I like what you did there. Oh my God, that's so good. Why didn't I think that? And it's not material, it's comebacks, or it's dealing with I think Sean Walsh did it once, where someone, you always get the smashed glass on the floor. Smashed glass. I think he said something like, oh, my dad's in, the whole room. It's a very simple,
this incredible comeback, isn't it? Yeah.
And you go, oh, okay, like,
yeah,
don't ignore the glass breaking, say something.
To me it's like this other level with either comebacks or just stage presence, or not saying anything and like twiddling glasses like Eric Morecambe, or the hat with Tommy Cooper, or the prop or whatever. There's this other level, I think, that just makes them stand out. It's extraordinary to watch.
Yes.
I have seen you many times at Always Be Comedy.
Yes.
How do you cope, if you cope, with any nerves before you go on stage? Do you get nervous at all?
Yeah, I do. I think it depends on the gig.
Right.
So I remember the first time I did Always Be Comedy.
Yeah.
I was really nervous. I hadn't done The Room before. And then, and then James, his skill with the audience is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
He's definitely the best compere for sure. And if he's watching, book me. I'm on pages. Thanks. But and then the nerves go away because you feel safe in the room.
Yes.
But then there'll be other ones where you're like, I don't think this is going to go well. Like, you can tell from the room, like, sometimes you just walk in, you're like, this is really, I'm going to have to claw back to try and do something here. So there's those ones, or there's the really big gigs. First time I did Edinburgh Playhouse, which is 3,000 seater, huge.
Wow. Yes, yeah.
And, it was just a showcase for Curb, it wasn't doing.
Yeah.
And I was only doing 5-minute set, and I was side stage. You have your mic ready to go on, and my eyes were rolling back in and my agents were like, "Are you okay? Are you right?" And I was just like, "Fine, I'm fine." And I was beyond nervous.
That must have been daunting.
Yeah, it was so nerve-wracking, because it was just the not knowing. I hadn't done anything like that at that stage. And then as soon as I got my first laugh, when I went out, I was fine. And now I can't wait to do the Playhouse again, you know, because I've done it. I think those nerves go once you've done it.
Yeah, that's and again, it's all experience, isn't it? The more you do, I presume that the less nervous you get, or the nerves go, because you have a routine that you believe is that good, and you go out and you just go, right, I'm going to make you laugh, you know, and you go out with that attitude. Let's move on to Edinburgh. I saw you perform your debut show, Telephone Voice, at the Edinburgh Fringe in 2019. And just as an aside, I was absolutely delighted that I featured in the show.
How can you not?
Please describe your writing process and where you get your ideas from. Where did you get the idea from?
Well, thank you very much for coming to my debut hour. You made up one seat of about 10 people that come for the whole month.
You made us laugh, sweetheart. You made us laugh.
Yeah, that show was sort of coming together of where I grew up,
right,
in Chatham, and coming from a working class upbringing, and then my adult life being very privileged, really. And the telephone voice idea was that everyone's got that, you know, I go in and out of it sometimes. You know, I speak quite well to certain people. And you should take it as a compliment, Rich, that I don't put on that voice with you.
Of course.
But I feel comfortable enough with you to be myself. But
yeah.
You know, it was a process of leaving Chatham, going to university, realising when I was growing up in Chatham, it was like the cool thing was to be as chatty as possible, you know. So I got my, you know, I want my, you know, you'd put it on more than what you naturally spoke like. You wouldn't, you know, you got all these kids standing on street corners talking like that, and they go home to their mum. They're like, what's for dinner, mum? You know, it's not. So then I went to university and realised that actually outside of Chatham, that's really not cool. Like, it's actually... No, it's quite the opposite. People try and speak properly to give themselves a bit of stature in life. And then I went through all my jobs and stuff, and I had some very high-profile corporate jobs before I started comedy.
Yeah.
And, you know, I never felt like I could walk into a meeting and speak in my natural accent. You know, I was always sort of... you know, lovely to meet you, it's great to be here, you know, that's kind of you know. And then it was only when I started doing stand-up that, you know, my accent come back quite strong. Even now, when I watch videos, my Chatham accent is much stronger on stage than it is in normal life. You know, I come on, you are everybody! You know, what?
Well, I love it.
Yeah, who is that? So it's like a defense mechanism or something. So that was what the idea of telephone voice was, is that, you know, it was actually when I found comedy is that I actually found that who I am and the way I speak is actually okay and acceptable, finally, in something that I love doing.
Yeah.
So whether that came across or not, I'm not sure, Rich. You'll have to tell me.
It did. I thought it was a perfectly constructed hour of your growing up, really, and your upbringing, and to the point where you were to your first Edinburgh. I thought it was a terrific show. I really did enjoy it. How do you remember all your stories and routines? Do you have a notepad? Do you practice?
I think I have new bits that I put in, and I tend to always group them.
Right.
I tend to always, and I think with time and with experience, I would hope that I don't rely on those groupings so much, because sometimes you'll rely on a previous joke to get you into that next joke. And if you haven't said that previous joke, that next joke doesn't have quite the gravity of the first one, if that makes sense.
Right.
So I usually group them in threes. So it's usually like, oh, I do that joke, and that punchline will set up the next story.
Right.
So, but you know what? It's so weird. Like you're talking, and then in your mind, your head is going, you better remember the punchline because it's coming right now. And you got that? You went, oh, you've forgotten that bit? You've forgotten that bit? Like, you know, it's all going on up there while you're delivering.
Yeah,
it's definitely a job for a psychopath. That's for sure.
Wow. No, it's a good answer, because you have to. Not only do you have to project yourself and be present on stage, all the remembering of it must be daunting but wonderful when you get the response back. I think that's why a lot of the comedians do it.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think that when obviously lockdown happened, and then there was a summer period after that first lockdown where some outdoor gigs were allowed to happen again.
Yeah.
And I remember the first one that I did, that exact thing happened where I was halfway through the setup, and because that muscle hadn't been used in ages, I was halfway through the setup and I was like, you better remember it, because there is 100 people staring at you right now, and you don't know the punchline. Don't know the punchline, do you? Don't know the punchline. And then, somewhere out of nowhere it comes, and then you're like, oh, and then you get the laugh, and then the laugh brings on energy for the next bit, and then you know, and it really is a sort of learning to walk again kind of situation.
I wrote a play because I wanted to raise a bit of money for Comic Relief, and we put 3 shows on. I wrote a play called The Applicant, and it was about me coming down to London from Carlisle, and I had a very successful girlfriend, but I couldn't get a job. So each scene was I was in a waiting room waiting for my interview, and then my friend would come on and play the part of the interviewer, and he's very good at accents, and so it was all about me. And I ran out, and the audience I was like a rabbit in headlights, and I get nervous, so I start talking to them because I'm waiting for this interview. So of course the first bit's all monologue, so it builds up this story. And the first night we put it on, I'd spent 10 weeks rehearsing it, and I ran out and I forgot the monologue. I was like a rabbit. It was just, and it was like all this work that had gone into it. And I said I'd managed to get my best joke out. He was called Norman Oliver Hope, so he would sign things No Hope.
Nice.
And it was just like, my name's Norman Oliver Hope, Carlisle, Dad, works in a sweet shop, and it's like, oh, this is like just neither. But when my friend came on, it was better because we could banter, you know. We I brought it back up again. But the Thursday and the Friday night, we did it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The Thursday and the Friday night, I didn't put a foot wrong.
No, it's just like, it's all there. It is all there. And your brain is just all like, not today, buddy. Not today.
Oh,
I am right on strike.
It was an extraordinary experience. You mentioned earlier about Russell Kane and Alan Carr. You toured separately with those 2 fantastic comedians. You touched on what it was like touring with them, but what was the experience like? Because it must have been, Alan Carr, I would guess, and Russell Kane would be big theatres or arenas.
Well, I'm meant to be currently doing Alan's proper arena tour.
Wow.
Which will be brilliant when it finally happens. It was meant to start in September last year. So,
of course,
so that's being delayed. So with Alan's, it was Alan hadn't done stand-up in ages. He's been doing TV work and stuff.
Yeah.
So to get his material together and to essentially write the show, we went just doing work in progress tours. So they were just like 300 seaters, in these villages in like the arse end of nowhere. And, they are, literally doing it in like the scout hut. And these people are so grateful because we've come to their village and nothing ever happens there. And they're just sort of like, Alan Carr? That's really Alan Carr? And, they literally can't believe, they're like, we thought it was going to be an impersonator, not actually Alan Carr. And they genuinely, and then, you'd come out the show at the end and it's not like a big theatre you can sort of sneak out.
Yeah.
Come out the local council thing. And they're all waiting for Alan, so you come out and I'm just standing there holding phones, taking the photos of all these people. And they're like, you get coming past, they're like, you were really good as well. You were really good,
Well, I don't know what to say about that. I feel sorry for you.
No, you know what? It's just like one of those things where it's just such a pleasure and an honour to be there, and hopefully one day, some little pipsqueak is going to be taking photos of me with. Well, I will.
I already have.
You have indeed.
I've seen a lot of Russell Kane online, doing his comedy online, and he's a perfect visual comedian. He darts around that. And with Alan Carr, my home city is Carlisle, and he always plays there as one of these smaller venues. And what was wonderful to see from him was how much research he'd done for the place he was in. So he'd like walk out and he'd go, where the hell am I? And then have 3 pinpoint jokes purely for that audience, and they're with him, and he's off. He's away. I met him, and he's just hilarious. Oh, hello, who are you?
I love it. I love him to pieces. I really adore him.
But that's wonderful that you've toured with them. Do you have any ambitions as a comedian? Would you like to be on TV? Would you like your own chat show? Would you like to host a quiz show? Have you had any thoughts about this?
All of the above would be lovely. It would be lovely. Do you know what? Yes, all of those things I would love to do. I would love to be one of those people where I'm more a funny person that they can put in things. I would love that. Like Alan's very good at that. Like, he's just very funny. He's known to be funny. Let's put him in this, and this, and that. So that would be the ultimate dream. I would love that. But for me, for now, I've been doing it. Say 5 years, but I won't count the last year.
No.
And it's still really early doors. So I would love to. I think that. Yes, I would love all those things, but I don't think you can really get those things without building it first. That fan base and all those people first. So I don't expect to jump over and do a bloody Love Island and find myself, presenting, with Holly Willoughby. I don't. I'm not looking for a leapfrog, but. That said, if anyone wants me on, something,
who are your favourite comedians, past and present?
I would say Lee Evans, ultimate. I remember, that was my first. Lee Evans and Joe Brand were my entry level into stand up. That was my earliest memory knowing what stand-up was. Lee Evans was like, I love this man.
He is
hilarious. It needs no explanation. It's Lee Evans.
Yeah,
he's brilliant.
The visual face.
But then I always remember watching the face and every expression that he makes. But also what I really love is that he's someone that sweats just as much as me, because if I was up there in those suits, I'd be sweating like that as well. So he's definitely an inspiration to me. Jo Brand, I always remember watching, being far too young to know what she was talking about, but loving what she was saying.
It's a way of delivery,
she was like a woman. Yeah, and just a woman at being up there and just literally just not giving a shit, like, you know, but in a really, really funny way. And I can vividly remember watching her when I was really little and just thinking, wow, like, she's fierce, you know. And I don't think women were really like that on the telly then, you know. She was scary, but in a really like amazing, incredible way. So yeah, I'd say like classic Lee Evans, Jo Brand together. That would just be perfect. If I could be in the sort of middle of that Venn diagram, I would love to be there. That'd be for sure.
I first saw Lee Evans at the Manchester Comedy Festival in the early 90s, and he did half an hour with Jeff Green. So you had Jeff Green's brilliant, intelligent delivery, and then you had Lee Evans' manic visual humour, and it was extraordinary. And I saw Jo Brand a few times. I saw her in Kingston and I saw her at the Fringe, and she delivered a perfect hour at the Fringe, and I was rushing to my next show and she ran past me and I went, "Oh, Jo, you were fantastic." She went, "Cheers, darling," and ran off. She knew I'd obviously be talking about. She's wonderful. Like me, do you go to a lot of comedy gigs as a member of the audience?
No, I don't think anyone goes to as many as you do, Rich, to be fair. But
every comedian I've asked has said no.
No, I don't, if I'm honest. I think when everything's up and normal, you're doing it 5 to 7 times a week anyway. No, I think it's almost like asking a chef, do they watch cookery programs? I don't know if they do, you know. I love comedy, and if I'm there and I'm watching it, then great. But I don't think in my time off I'd then go and sit in a comedy club.
Even I can't do it 7 days. Do you? Do you, as an extension of that? If you're on a comedy bill, would you stay and watch the rest of the comedians?
Depends who it is.
Right.
Yeah, it depends who it is. If I'm really brutally honest, but no, if I've seen them before, you know, and I know what their material, it's like, I mean, but if I'm intrigued, then yes. But it's usually you've done your bit. You know, it does become a job as much as you love it. It's your job. You just want to do your bit, earn your money, and you know, get home. Because I want to get home to Bruce. Like I think that some people are, you know, dedicated to comedy and they live and breathe it. But I do have a life,
of course,
outside of it, you know.
The reason I've asked those last 2 questions about going to comedy and your favourite comedians, there's a section in my blog called The Ones That Got Away, and I've listed 25 acts that have either sadly passed on or I just haven't had a chance to see, because every one I go to, I have these wonderful memories of them. My first gig was Les Dawson in 1977. And then 76, and then I saw Tommy Cooper, and Les Dawson. He did the classic routine right at the end of for the encore. I always have this argument with my brother. I thought it was my grandma who was late for the show, and she had to crawl down in front of the stage. And he gets her out of the corner of his eye, and he takes the mickey out of her for the rest of the show. And the encore was, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're very privileged tonight to have the chairwoman of the Scarborough Women's Institute in the audience tonight," and pointed at my grandma. And he went, it's her birthday today and she's 111 years old. And the whole audience clapped and cheered. And I want you all to sing happy birthday with me. So he starts on the piano playing badly happy birthday. And halfway, everybody's joining in. And halfway through, he looks to the wings and went, what? Oh, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, she's not 111, she's ill. Then the curtain just comes down. It was just the best. I love that comedian. So yeah, they all have a lot of memories for me, and of course, being in the profession, they must give you experience and awe of watching them because they're your heroes as well, you know. So it's wonderful. 2020 has been a very strange year, and now for everyone. How have you found online gigs as opposed to live stand-up? Have you done many online gigs? Do you like doing them?
Yeah, I've done a couple.
Yeah.
I have. If people have asked me, I've definitely not said no.
Yeah.
You know, that's for sure. I haven't gone out searching for them just purely because I just don't feel like it's the same thing.
Right.
You know, like there's been a couple of times I've done them, and you know, people when they're in their own home and they're watching a gig, they don't have any of the etiquette, or you know, and they're totally forgiven for it because they're in their bloody front room.
Yeah.
And they don't realise that you can see them if it's got the little audience thing. You know, there's this one woman, she's like eating her noodles. You know, and she's right there, and she's caught my eye, and I'm like looking at her the whole time. She's just eating her noodles, just looking like really sad. And then she's like talking to her husband, like, "Well, no, I don't know. You know, she's got this.
No.
You know, another one was there was all the people's faces, and it was going all right, but the audience, the whole thing, were a little bit subdued, you know, and I was focusing on this one woman right at the top because she was just like the whole time. And I was like, oh my God, she is really enjoying this. This is brilliant. And then towards the end of my set, I realised it was the thumbnail picture of her.
Oh, no.
It wasn't even her camera. It was just...
Oh, no. That's awful.
Yeah, so, you know, so they're not the same. You know, I don't think anyone will say that they prefer them. I think it's brilliant and innovative that you know, people have carried them on and want to carry on. And people come and watch them, which I think is brilliant. But please, I want to get back in the club. I want my audience back.
I'm exactly like you. I think they're a fantastic substitute, but you can't beat live comedy.
No.
And I miss going out on a Saturday night having a few beers and then a real belly laugh at a decent comedy club. The online gigs, I go to Always Be Comedy, I go to Return of the Crack, the Irish one, on a Friday night with Jarlath Regan. That's brilliant. And I've been I've been to Happy Mondays with Sean James as well. And when they first started, there was no audio. So, of course, with my laugh, I was just laughing loudly at four walls. And I thought the neighbours were going to come and get me. But then, of course... I'm
sure they've lived next to you long enough to know that you're laugh by now. I'm sure
but then, of course, James Gill and Always Be Comedy had the bright idea to open up the front row. And they can banter with the comedians and the laugh. The laugh helps them enormously, but it is not the same. You know, it's wonderful that there is the appetite for it, and I don't know how I would have got through lockdown without it. But by God, please come back live soon. Maybe by the time this interview goes out, maybe we are back live. I don't know.
I hope so.
Hopefully. Just before we go, and I've much enjoyed this. Is there anything else you would like to say? Have you got any? Are you writing any shows? Where can folk find you on social media? Do you have any podcasts? Anything like that?
That sounded very full. Speak now, or forever hold your peace. Is there anything that you've got to say for yourself before we go? I haven't really got anything coming out. I've been working across lockdown on some, on a sitcom, two sitcoms, but
Wow.
they're so in development. They've not been options or anything like that, but they're written and hopeful.
Wow.
So one's about my dad, and one's about my sort of traveller. Extension of my family are all travellers, but these things are so far in advance that there's no point googling it, because something we'll have an alien invasion before any chance of it coming to light. So I've been working on that, but no, so nothing really particular. I'm on social media. It's Convey, Kelly_Convey. I'm on TikTok, and I try out new material on TikTok sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's like I'm just hunkered down. I'm waiting and ready to just come back properly. Live for me is my job, and just waiting for it to come back. So, and then hopefully you can come and see me live.
Well, I'm going to be at the front of the queue, because I think you're absolutely hilarious. I've loved you every time I've seen you live. I wish you every success, and thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, you're going to make me cry, Rich. Thank you so much for having me. You're such a sweetheart.
Well, no, genuinely, it is. You are one of the best, I'm telling you. Keep doing what you do, and I will see you live very, very soon. All the best to you.
Thanks, my love.
Thanks now.
Take care.